So Mike and I have been friends for 6 years.
I'd say so, yeah.
6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
You were probably 100 pounds heavier.
Yeah, it's about right.
Right?
Yep.
And I was also not saying no to a buffet, or bow or whatever. We're in Chinatown here in Vegas. And, you're a realtor. I'm a title guy. We'll talk about that in a second. And just kind of go back and forth on what we're seeing right now and what you've done to be successful. I'm upright, not bad at what I'm doing. And really just to share any nuggets that we can with folks. And for this, for people that are coming on, we're live on Facebook. And if you have a question, and we'll be doing calls to action as well with that. If you have a question about something with the real estate market, nationally, in Vegas, whatever, first-time home buyers, or life in general here in Vegas. Are you born and raised?
When I moved out here, I was 1, so pretty much.
You're born and raised.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with you, my friend, about the journey of Mike Roland. About what, here, where'd you go to school, the whole thing.
Yeah, so moved out here when I was 1. My parents from Shreveport, Louisiana, so got that like Southern kind of background, but don't have the accent my mom does. I didn't get it.
She does?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, my friends give me shit for it all the time, but it's
cool.
Charming. And then, I kind of just grew up here. I bounced around, obviously, in my later years, played a little ball, went to Fresno State, transferred to UNLV. I kind of banged my knee up there, and that was a wrap. But like, as far as like just being a local boy, went to Foothill High School, just pretty much grew up here. And just like everyone else, kind of like in Vegas, if you grow up here, it seems like, you kind of get sick of it. You want perspective, or you just don't have, and you think Vegas sucks. You end up leaving, and then you come back after a year or two because you realize, damn, Vegas is actually pretty cool.
That bad.
I love it. Right? I really do. Yeah. Again, like I don't know if I want to be here the rest of my life, but I really enjoyed the 35 years that I've spent here.
Yeah.
So.
It is, the funny part is that people that don't live here are like, how can you live in Vegas? It's party all the time and you live in a casino. Like, no, that's not how it is. And that's how people moving here, right? Do you see that a lot when you're talking to people from out of state that are coming here, that they have like a preconceived notion about Vegas and what's going on here?
Some of them, yeah, they think that like we live on the Strip technically. Like that's kind of one of those things. A lot of people are kind of familiar with Henderson, but Summerlin kind of as well. But for the most part, they get it, especially if, they've done a little bit of research. But yeah, there's still some people that think that like the residents here live in the casinos and we just go down there and there's nothing else that exists outside the Strip, which obviously, as we know, is not true.
We gamble, eat at buffets all the time, get room service.
Yep.
And everyone's a millionaire.
Yeah.
Because everyone here is loaded because they all win when they gamble.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's just what happens. It's interesting because it's just those preconceived notions. But then when people come here, like, the look when someone goes to Summerlin for the first time, or Henderson, or Southern Highlands, and they're seeing homes, like, holy crap. What?
Yeah.
And I'm paying how much in taxes in LA County, and I can come here and on average, like a 32% savings cost of living is what's going on. Which is pretty bananas.
Yeah.
So all right, let's backtrack a second because my Adderall is just kicking in, so I could focus with you.
Yeah.
What were you doing right before real estate, and what got you into real estate? What was it?
Yeah, I wish I could say that like it was just something that I was born to do and I knew I was going to do it my whole life. That wasn't it. I tripped and fell into real estate. It worked out well. Before I did what most people do in this town, I was in the nightlife. I bartended for quite a bit. I bartended for like, your Joe's Crab Shack, your Buffalo Wild Wings. Money was decent there. I wanted to get into like more of like the nightlife scene to make some real coin. And so I started being a bigger boy. you'd mentioned 350 pounds. I'd run, in kind of that range, but I was a bigger boy. Still am, but just in a little bit better, I guess.
Oh, you're shredded, please. Literally, you now have the body fat percentage of like an Olympic swimmer. Like Michael Phelps would be jealous of you now. So we'll talk about that.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a journey, but yeah, I was a big guy. I wanted to get behind the bar. Unfortunately, I didn't look that good in a bikini. So they're like, listen, we'll put you at the front. You can, check people's IDs. You can kick people out if they're being unruly. So that's what I did. And then just kind of being, I wouldn't say politician, but just kind of like, rubbing shoulders. I somehow navigated my way behind the bar. I was probably the biggest, volume bartender you'd find. I'm running into everybody. Like I had no business back there, but that's where the money was.
Hips hitting bottles of vodka, stuff like that.
I'm just, knocking people over senseless. All the girls in the bikinis are like, geez. But, that's where the money was. So I was there for a while. I did about 7 years at Stoney's. It's a country bar out here. I was, not always bartending, but I was there for about 7 years, and that was a good stretch. And then just it ran its course. They got bought out. So I kind of got pushed into real estate. And at first, I really didn't know what to do. I started with a buddy of mine who helped me purchase my home, and kind of just learned the hard way, like how to do things, what not to do. After a couple years of learning, I switched over to where I'm at now. It's Platinum Real Estate Professionals. It's a great brokerage. They treat me really, really well. They let me do my own thing, and then just kind of formed a team. And from there, it's just kind of been gangbusters. Like, it's been a lot of fun. We've been growing every year, just bigger and better. It's been kind of crazy, but like, it's a lot of, as you know, because you know my business pretty well, we do really lean into systems. Like, that's like, I'm a firm believer in like automations and everything else, just to streamline volume of, potential buyers and sellers. And then at the same time, what you're doing is just basically triaging them and making sure that you're actually manually working, the ones that are relatively going to buy in the next 30, 60, 90 days. But the rest,
yeah.
But you don't forget the rest, obviously.
Right.
And that's what I see in this industry quite a bit. I'd say 90% plus agents will reach out to a potential buyer or seller, maybe once or twice, and then that's it. That's dead.
Yeah.
So we get a bunch of like older leads, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, and we just end up, closing them at some point. And because of that, those add up. So
what's something, going back for a second for nightlife, because it's hysterical. I love it. I love that. What, if anything, or things did you learn being in nightlife that you're applying today?
That's a great question. And I think a lot of nightlife or industry workers do very well in real estate because they're chameleons. They can just basically get along with almost anybody because the customer is always right. That's bullshit. But that's what, you have to kind of nod and say, this guy's a complete asshole. He's drunk, whatever. Yeah, you're the best, dude. Tell me more about how awesome
you can't argue with a drunk person. You can't argue with a buyer or seller that has their own preconceived notions about something, and they're not going to change their mind.
That's right. And so that's kind of the thing. That's the biggest, I'd say, crossover. There's also like, the ability to multitask too. Like, I can't speak for all areas, but at Stoney's, like, you'd have to have like 10, 15 drink orders in the back of your head because it's like you're taking a bunch. So the ability to kind of multitask and triage of most important, especially on Dollar Ladies Night, they have that on Thursday. Holy shit, dude. My hell. Personal hell.
You're dying.
Oh, it was the worst.
You're dying.
Oh, yeah. And then, you got these girls, they're so pretty. They got all the dudes spending like, they're buying bottles and shit.
Yeah.
I'm doing just vodka cranberries all day. I'm sweating my ass off. Again, I'm 350 pounds, man. I'm fucking soaked.
You're working it.
Yeah. So, I mean.
Were the girls good tippers, by the way?
No.
That's what I was. I bartended back in college. I always saw that girls never tipped.
Yeah.
Ever. The guys were pretty good, but the girls just, for some reason, don't know why.
And one other thing too about, back in the day was there was dollar drinks. So they'd come in these white cups, and then you'd see these girls come in, and for a fact they're getting one for themselves and one for their boyfriend.
Oh yeah.
And there was one per, but of course, like, you'd see them go and give it to their boyfriend, come back, and then I got to be that asshole. I'm like, no, don't work like that. Yeah. And I'm like, this is so petty. But at the same time, like, that was my job.
So even then, how many years ago was this?
That was probably like I'd say like 9 years ago.
So you're setting expectations then with an 8 or a 9, telling her, no, can't do that. Sorry. And then she goes back to the boyfriend and says, no, you've got to pay full boat on the thing. So fast forward to now, let's talk for a little bit about your growth, about going from just a solo practitioner, at another real estate office. And what was it that you were doing that really jettisoned you from being this is good money to, oh, wait a minute, I can afford this. I can now do this with serious cash coming in, hitting your checking account?
I think just like work ethic at first, like, there's no shortcut around just, grinding. And that was what I did initially. And then when you just kind of exhaust all that you can potentially do in a day, in a week, in a month, and then you start seeing like that spillover, like, oh man, I didn't get back to this client in time. It took too long and then I lost him or whatever. I started realizing, okay, how can I still make money on this? You know what I mean? So basically from there, I'd start leveraging, like I mentioned previously, automation helps quite a bit. And then at a certain point, you need somebody to take over and to, facilitate a transaction. So my first agent that I brought on, her name's Amber. She's still with me, Amber Holiday. She's with me since the beginning. I knew that she was great. She just didn't have the opportunities. Yeah. And so, I partnered with her. I said, hey, do you want to get, some of these opportunities, maybe get some of these leads? And she said, yeah, absolutely. And so from there, that's kind of like what opened up my mind to like, wow, this is and the team thing is as huge now, but like back, I guess, when I first started, I mean, it was still kind of taking off, but like the team concept is like the way, in my opinion, now.
Yeah.
Back then, it really wasn't. I mean, there was a lot of teams doing it right, but it wasn't what it is. And so, I mean, again, just having people that are not just people that you can give a lead to and just hope and fingers crossed they're going to close it. These are people that are well trained. Everything is uniform within your culture. We all say the same things within reason, of course, like, because the same objections are going to come up every single time.
Every time.
So you just got to know how to like navigate that and how to kind of go back to where you need to bring them. And then of course, when we get in front of them, that's when we're ourselves. We're not robots, right? We are. So a lot of that has to do with just hiring good people that work hard, but also just have certain skills as far as relating to people and reading people. So, I mean, for me, it was just working my ass off until I was losing a lot of business. Then I kind of threw in automation to help with just, follow up. And then from there, I was like, okay, I need good agents. And Amber was, piece number one. And since then we've added, quite a bit to that.
What are the qualities that an agent should have to be successful in real estate and or be on your team and be successful in real estate?
That's a great question. So, like we'll do a personality test like the DISC profile. Man, I don't even know anymore because it's tough.
Yeah, I agree.
I've been doing this for quite a bit and I think I've got a good read for the most part, but I still get it wrong quite a bit. I'd probably say 1 out of 3 end up not working out anywhere close to what I thought. So I'd say the biggest one is drive or hunger. The problem is when you're interviewing people, it's hard to really get that from them because everyone's going to say, yeah, I'm hungry. Yeah, I'll work hard. And then when push comes to shove, they're like, okay, you're not making your phone calls. You're not doing what needs to be done. And it's like, yeah, I just don't like doing it. It's like, well, you said you were hungry, motherfucker. Like you lied to me. So, but it's one of those things where like a couple months in, you find this out after you've already invested time, resources. I've got some of my agents that are mentors, so they're training them now too. So it's a risk as well. Like, cause every minute they're spent training these new agents, they're not making their calls. They're not making, sales, which ultimately is kind of, what makes the company run. Right. So now we're kind of put up with something because, again, if you're hungry, prove it. The first 30 days, like you don't get login credentials. I don't order you business cards.
Login credentials for
platforms like, CRM, everything. Like you don't get any of that yet. You don't get a cool little polo like this. You don't get nothing. After 30 days, it's 30 days of pain, because we're going to have you call circle prospecting. That's basically you're just calling out of a phone book. It's a pain in the ass. It's a grind. No one likes doing it. Door knocking, which again, no one likes doing, and open houses. So it's a lot of grunt work. But if you can make it past those 30 days, you've proven that you want it and you showed me you're actually hungry, then we'll talk. Then you welcome to the team. You start getting some nice leads that actually have, raise their hand. Hey, I want to buy, I want to sell. Here's my contact information. Reach out. You're going to have better conversations with that than the ones that are like, you're the 5th agent to call me this morning. Fuck off. It's one of those things.
What's the percentage of agents that you see making it that 30 days?
That's, it's a new thing that we put together, and I'm like, we'll see. I'm not going to really filter them too much because we haven't really even put it together. It's something we're starting first quarter of actually next year. It's right around the corner. So we'll see. Honestly, I would like to say 50%, but knowing what I know, I'd be happy if I can get 1 out of 4.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, you have the processes in place to test and measure, to know if they're making phone calls, to listen in on stuff, and to not only monitor, but coach them.
Yeah.
Right?
That's huge, obviously, and again, trying to find the manpower, and that's not pulling away from your production, the bloodline of your company. So obviously, again, we talked about leverage, virtual assistant, we're both big fans of.
Yep.
I've got one, his name is Jarvis. He is phenomenal, and he's going in, he's tracking, he's making sure that they're making their calls, they're responding in a timely fashion, and they're doing all of the basic, operating procedures that we have in place within the company. And that's awesome. Like if you're a real estate agent out there and you haven't explored the VA model, do yourself a favor, jump on Fiverr, Upwork. Honestly, you can pay them because $4 gets stretched a hell of a lot further than it does out here in the States. And they are honestly some of the better working people. And, you have to kind of go through some because you do get burned sometimes. I can tell you about that. But my guy currently, he's phenomenal. He's worth his weight in gold. And just having that extra layer of accountability is major. And the agents know they're getting watched and monitored. So they're always, on their heels. Just
higher level of accountability.
Yep.
Right. What for you with virtual assistants, what's like the biggest success story that you have with a VA?
Just getting them back on, like, a virtual assistant will basically, he knows, like, hey, they need to respond in a timely fashion. So he'll drop a note to both me and to the agent. And then sometimes the agent just doesn't see it for whatever the reason. I don't know why that happens, but it does. Things slip through the cracks. And, just basically a reminder, hey, you didn't respond. And then they'll respond. And thankfully, there was still an opportunity there. And we ended up converting it. And that's a couple $1,000s, both to the company and to the agent as well. It's also a coachable moment. It allows me to kind of say, hey, what happened here? What are we doing? Why aren't we doing this? So there's always, there's extra things that are in the future that are going to play out to be income producing, but like those are just immediate, like looking at certain opportunities and just basically calling people out on it and alerting me at the same time so I can coach them up. And if it becomes reoccurring, it's like, okay, we got a problem here,
Right. Where does an agent, do you think, need to be at? What type of level of production or their time where they're like, you know what, I need a VA?
That's a good question. I would say, honestly, probably it depends on kind of the structure of of how you run your business. So there's a lot of agents out there that just work listings, and you can do 50, 100 listings at once and with just like a good transaction manager or listing manager, and you could you can maybe have a buyer's agent that you can have work buyers off of those the listings that you're getting calls off of. VA may not be necessary. I'd say if you're running a team, I think that accountability thing is major. Unless you just want to go in and live in the CRM and constantly be babysitting your team and, always calling them out, hey, why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do this? Which, is time consuming for me. I don't want to spend my day doing that. Then also like that kind of like dirties the relationship I have with my agents. Like I want to do it on occasion. If I'm constantly in there every single day saying, you didn't text back and, this time, you didn't call, or how come you didn't do this? It's like, damn, dude, like leave me alone. I don't want to have that relationship with my agents.
You're that guy.
So it's nice to have somebody kind of just in the middle that like lets me know. And again, I don't really go at them too hard. If it becomes reoccurring, then that's a problem.
You're really good when you talked about you don't want to be that guy. You're really good at striking a balance between accountability, but also team building and respect.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You do. And that you really care about your agents. And you want to weaponize them and empower them, but also you want to love on them. The investment that they're making with their time and their talent and their trust in you is massive, massive. I want to talk a little bit about that, actually a lot about that, and that what is it that inspires you to do that? What are some things that you do to congratulate, to reward your agents and people on your team?
Yeah, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's a part of our culture, is the accountability factor. And I make sure when I'm interviewing people, like if you don't like being held accountable, do not come aboard. I'm telling you this right now because it's going to happen. It's going to be annoying sometimes, but it is what it is. And my team, they appreciate the culture. They really do. Like everyone I talk to, like they feel like they need it. And I need it. Like I'm living, breathing proof of this. Like I have a couple different accountability groups where I have to check in. I wake up at 3:30 in the morning and I wouldn't if I didn't have somebody holding me accountable. It's two of my buddies. They're in different states. They both run real estate teams. They're absolute monsters. And if I don't check in, if I fail to check in with that 15-minute window, I have to Venmo them each $100.
Wow.
I don't like doing that. So, that's just one thing. That opened my eyes. I did this all last year. And there were times where like, dude, I don't want to wake up. I'm tired, whatever. But I just didn't want to Venmo the, $200 every time. So that helped me, and of course that helped me get to the gym earlier, helped me prime my day earlier. And it was just kind of, it snowballed into a better day. And so I carried this over, obviously, to the team, and I don't have them wake up at a certain time. I don't care how they spend their mornings. I do recommend a morning routine because, you can read 100 self-help books. I'll save you the time. One of the main principles is have a morning routine. It can be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but have a morning routine. Almost every single person that's doing phenomenal in life has a morning routine. And so that's something that I always recommend. I share what mine looks like and we'll discuss it as well. But as far as accountability goes, actually on Thursdays in particular, we have an accountability. So we do a daily Zoom Monday through Friday. Thursdays in particular are accountability Zooms. And it's not even work related sometimes. Sometimes it's fitness, sometimes it's diet, sometimes it's spiritual, sometimes about reading books. Like I'll read a chapter. They make a commitment. I don't tell them anything. They basically say, Mike, this is my commitment. This is what I want to do. Okay. And all I'm doing is basically checking in with them every Thursday. My VA is sitting in and he's making notes and he's updating as we go along. And so we're just communicating. And she said, hey, one of my agents would say, I want to read a chapter a day, or I'm sorry, a chapter a week. So week goes along, next Thursday, hey, you read that chapter? No, I got busy. It's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to change this? Do you want to is this getting you? No, I'll do it. Okay, cool. So it's not me getting on them, telling them you need to do X, Y, and Z. They are basically saying what they want to do, and I'm simply holding them accountable. And because there's an audience, the rest of the team as well, it's kind of more like, I guess, pressure, you'd say. But, we also help each other. Some of them, one of my agents wants to meet more people, as far as like enhance her SOI, or sphere of influence, so that she can ultimately do more business, but also have better quality of life. So there's meetup groups, and she didn't know about meetups. She said, what are meetup groups? Facebook groups. She's like, what are these things? But because we collaborated within this Zoom, this accountability group every Thursday, one of my other agents who's extremely social, Becca, Becca, she's like, you should do this and that. And since then, Martine is the agent that was a little unfamiliar with it. She entered 2 different groups, and not only is her quality of life improved, she's like just enjoying, she's having fun, but she's also got 2 transactions out of it. This just happened within like 2 or 3 months. So
if you are a real estate agent, no matter where you are in the country, I think it is critical for you to be in a meetup group or groups, and something that you like, something that fits your interests. Don't force a square peg into a round hole. Yep. It just comes off as icky. And you build sincere relationships that way, and it ends up monetizing.
Major. Joel Adams, that dude crushes it. He has a cigar lounge that he goes to all the time, and he gets so much business out of that. And it started out as just like a cool club. He likes to smoke his cigars, and it started to be just, he's the resident real estate guy. And these people are all well-to-do for the most part. It's not a cheap membership, and he absolutely crushes it. So like we use that, and again, as an example with the accountability group, like this should be something that we're all trying to do. Becca has like these hiking groups. Like she's the most active person I know. She's going on hikes. She's constantly doing things. It's exhausting just to watch her on Facebook. And then, again, it could be anything. It could be, one of my Gage, he does jujitsu. I like to go to the gym. It could be anything you want, but it's your third place, we call it. Your first place is your home. Your second place is the office. Find a third place. And if you can monetize the third place, that's freaking awesome. But enjoy it. Your third place is like your sanctuary. And for me,
it gives you balance.
Correct.
Right? It gives you balance. Something I want to touch on really quick that you mentioned before. One of the worst words someone can use in sales or in working with somebody else in interpersonal communication is busy. Because when I hear you're telling me that you're busy, that means that something else is more important than me. And if we're talking about the most expensive, stressful financial decision of my life to buy or sell a home, and you're telling me that you're busy, I'm out.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hear that you're grinding.
Right.
We live in Vegas. I'm 53. I'll break a hip. I don't want to grind anything.
Right.
I want to grind a damn thing. I want to know that you're working hard, but if you're a good storyteller online, and if you're posting and being relevant on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, on YouTube, people see that naturally.
Yeah.
Right? And you're kind of telling your own story that you don't have to quantify your actions. But that's something whenever I'm talking to my friends, and to say, avoid using the word busy when you're talking to a client. Because you then take a dominant role psychologically in that conversation, and that's not where you want to be at that point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point as well, because sometimes, you are busy. It's just the nature of things. If you're a productive agent, that comes with the territory. You're going to be busy, but you don't rub that in your client's face. Your client doesn't need to know that. But I've noticed this as well, and you're absolutely right. If they're following you on social media, they can see that you're relatively busy. So maybe they won't be as harsh on you if you don't respond in a timely fashion. I noticed this. Maybe it's more in my head than anything else, but when I was a newer agent, like I was Johnny on the spot, because I could be, right? I only had a couple deals here and there, so I was just always just on it. As I got busier, I was stuck in meetings. I couldn't respond. I'm doing podcast. I'm not able to respond right now. My clients don't really get upset with me. They understand. They're even saying, "Oh, I understand that you're busy," and that could have something to do with social media, or I don't really know. I feel in a way, you train people how to treat you. You know what I mean? So like if you're a busy person and you're not Johnny on the spot, which you should be if you can, but if you can't be, maybe display some sort of like, I'm busy to a degree. Like, I don't know if that comes with status. I don't know what that might look like. I think that people understand it, and maybe with the social media, it paints a picture a little bit easier for them.
Instead of saying busy, something I will always say is, first of all, when someone says, "I know you're busy," and my reply back, like muscle memory is, "I'm never too busy for you." First thing I'll always say.
Yeah.
Second thing is I will always say, "I'm blessed. My book of business is I'm blessed right now, even given current market conditions. I'm blessed with the activity I'm seeing in my calendar and in my business."
Yeah.
And when you turn it more to a positive and put it back onto them,
right,
then there's more engagement that way, and they feel listened to. All my clients are real estate agents, and all y'all are nuts.
Yeah.
You're all freaking bananas. And you know that, right? And so to manage all those expectations, just like how you are, you're herding kittens every single day.
Yeah.
And I never tell somebody I'm busy.
Yeah.
that is just to me like nails in a chalkboard. Like my kids, don't ever say shut up. I was raised by, that's a swear word to me, is the term shut up. So if my kids ever say that, I correct their behavior immediately to say, we don't say those words in this house. It's just negative and toxic and mean. And I feel that the word busy sometimes can be negative, toxic, and mean, because you're kind of letting someone know that, you know what, I'm more important than you are right now. I'm going to dismiss you because I'm busy.
Yeah.
What? What?
Right.
Like, let that sink in a little bit. If you tell somebody that you're busy, how are they going to look at you? They're not going to look at you with respect.
Right.
Especially if they're looking to trust you in selling or buying a home with you, that they're going to be spending hundreds, if not millions of dollars.
Yep.
They want you listening to them.
Yeah. You being busy sounds like a personal problem. Like that shouldn't be at the cost of the consumer's experience. Especially, again, you telling them that you're busy, you're essentially just rubbing in their face. Like they don't need to know that. If it takes you an hour to respond, it takes you an hour to respond, but never respond with, I'm busy. I agree. That's pretty damn rude. You know?
It is. Let's get back to some positive stuff. You love to read. You are a voracious reader, right? And I want to talk a little bit about like Mike's Reading Rainbow and your and your book club and just things that you do to let people know what you're reading, but also empower your team to also read and reward them, when they're reading. I'd love to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so started reading like probably 3 or 4 years ago. I hated it. Like in high school, in my 20s, just never picked up a book, didn't care to. All of the material that you're forced to read in high school sucks. To Kill a Mockingbird, it's a classic, but the fucking book sucks. So I realized, I guess I just don't like reading, right? Realized later, like, no, I just didn't like reading the books that were recommended. When you start to go down like that, there's a lot of stuff that, you actually will enjoy if you give it the chance. For me, a lot of it's self-help. Kind of a self-help junkie to a degree. Like I mentioned earlier, I've read a bunch of those and I can spare you. There's like 5 or 6 consistent tips that you could do.
What are they?
Oh,
talk about it.
One of them's a morning routine, another one's some sort of physical activity, getting in the gym. It could be yoga. It could be anything. Through affirmations, that's huge. I have a journal as well. My friends make fun of me, but I affirm things. I speak as if they're presently happening, even though they may not be. A gratitude journal also is something that I would strongly recommend, to where you would just jot down 2 or 3 things to be grateful for every morning, and don't repeat the same things, because that's easy. I could say my wife, I could say my son, I could say my business, and I can do that every day. But it makes you search for things if you're not repeating, and you start to get really specific, and you start to really dive into your days, and you start, man, I'm super grateful. Like I found that like Diet Coke I've been looking for, that one particular flavor. You know what I mean? Like it's just little things like that you're like, you think about just how we take stuff for granted, and we all take it for granted. So the gratitude journal, affirmations, fitness, and reading as well. I like to read in the morning, but more specifically, I like to because we only have 24 hours in a day. So I like to be as efficient as possible. So the reason also that I read quite a bit is I will do treadmill or I'll do stairs. And I find that as long as you're not going level 30, you can do both. You can read while you're actually doing these things. And it's awesome because you're reading a book and you're working out simultaneously, but it also makes the time go by significantly quicker. And let's be honest, I don't care who you are. You want it to end as quickly as possible.
Get it done, man. Just get it done. Let's talk go back about a little bit more with reading, like Mike's Reading Rainbow, which I think is freaking hysterical. I think it's awesome. I think it's one of the coolest pieces of content you put out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What is it? And talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so Reading Rainbow kind of started as a gag. I don't know if I'm going to get busted at some point by LeVar Burton over copyright issues, because it starts off with the fun Reading Rainbow theme of back in the day that I enjoyed when I was in preschool or kindergarten. But it basically is just a summary of the book. I try to do one a week, and it's just a quick little minute, maybe a minute and a half. Try to get it within the reel so I can fit it in Instagram. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, maybe get them longer as I progress with it. But it's basically just a breakdown of the book. What I did find is that a lot of times I would read a book and then after a couple of days, I'd forget everything about it. And it's just very common if you're just kind of constantly reading new books. Like, what are you doing? You want to implement some of these things. You want to take some of this with you. You want to learn. And you want to remember a lot of it. So by doing these summaries, not only was it content, and thank you, if it's good content, that's great. But for me too, it was helping me kind of recall and just remember these certain things that were impactful to me. And so just do one a week. And like I said, if you're doing treadmill, I do treadmill more than I probably should, but I'll knock out a book in a week and then just kind of do a recap of it. And then I share it with my team. And as far as doing Book of the Month Club, we offer that as well. Or we do that as well. It's not mandatory as well. If you're not a booker, that's fine. A lot of my team members, and I accept audio as well. Most people can do audio. I can't. I don't know. If I put an audio version of a book on, I'll go through the whole thing and I'm like, what the hell did I listen to? Like I completely zone out. I have to read it. But, I'll allow the team members to obviously just do the audio, whatever version gets them through it. And then after the month, those that did it, I'll take them out till lunch or something. And then we just discuss the book's details. A lot of it, again, is just self-help. We're not doing, Harry Potter. A lot of it's going to be stuff real estate related. Some of it's going to be, as far as self-help or self-improvement. And then sometimes I'll let them pick as well if they have any type of suggestions.
What are some of your must-reads for someone that is either getting in the real estate business or a realtor right now? Yeah. What are some of your go-to books that you recommend?
So specifically for the real estate world, Ninja Selling, I think is a really good one. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, those are two as far as just getting into the industry and figuring out just the A to Z practices of real estate. I think those two are very specific to the real estate field. So those are the two I would recommend with that. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss is a phenomenal book. It's on negotiating. He's a former FBI negotiator. So he talks about basically his life in that world.
His wife is hot, by the way.
Is she?
See him on Instagram? Because he's an older dude. Chris Voss gives me hope because I'm 53 and he's older than me. And his wife is she's a 9.5. Oh, wow. And that's just because I haven't met her yet.
Yeah.
But she's this ripping hot blonde. Nice. Good for you, dude. However, that's his ultimate negotiation is he got her.
Right.
So props to you, Chris Voss, because holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that shows he knows what he's doing.
Absolutely.
Right? My brother, who's not even in real estate, he gifted me the book for Christmas this year. It was a different version. And he's like, it's a really good book. I'm like, I've read it a handful of times, but thank you so much because that's in line with the stuff I read. But he's an engineer, so he found value in it. It's a phenomenal book and a good read.
Good for you for looking at books or having books presented to you that aren't just real estate-y books. Everyone knows Keller's book.
Right.
A lot of people know even Ninja Selling, a lot of it is real estate stuff. But for you to do Chris Voss's book, that's to me one of my favorite books of all time.
Right.
Because you're negotiating and reading body language and voice inflection and eye contact and all that stuff. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And that's a biggie, I think, is to not just look at books written for real estate agents to succeed.
Yeah.
You want to read books that 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
Carnegie. Come on.
Yep.
There's just stuff like that needs to get put into your repertoire of stuff.
There's so many books. I mean, there's a few, right, for real estate, and those would be directed specifically for real estate agents or agents that are looking to become real estate agents. But for me, what I find, a book in its sense is basically condensed knowledge over the course of centuries in a lot of ways, and it's at our fingertips, and we're not jumping into it for whatever the case may be. But it's these are basically notes, been condensed for you to where if you go through it, you can save yourself a lot of time and trouble. And so, for example, right now, I don't know if you can relate to this, but I've been having issues, with my diet and everything like that. With the holidays, I'm just succumbing to, the cookies and the candies and everything else. And even though Christmas is over, there's still some residual sweets around the house. And I find myself, just snacking. When I start, I can't stop. And so I'm trying to think of mentally, what is my problem? You know what I mean? Because it's just a temporary thing. Why do we indulge as human beings? Why do we stuff our face? It is such a moment. It's gone. Once it's done, it's gone. But the lasting effects it does on your body, your health, your mental, cognitive abilities, just everything. It's it takes days, weeks, months to take the pounds off. But yet, here I am stuffing my face with Reese's peanut butter cups, and it only is pleasurable for 30 seconds. Why am I doing this? So I'm reading this book now called Comfort Crisis. The author, I think his name is Michael Easter or something like that. Basically, this guy breaks down, he acknowledges that we live in a very great time to be alive. We live in America, obviously. It's 2022 almost. It's a great time to be alive. We got modern dentistry. We got AC. Everything is just in an instant. We have Amazon Prime, Netflix, and yet we're the most depressed we've ever been. The suicide rate is up I think it's staggering the numbers from the 1950s. It's tripled to now. So we're technically supposed to be happier because the world we live in is so much more convenient, and yet we're miserable. And he's trying to figure out why. And his thesis essentially is basically we're too comfortable. And it's okay that, we're bored. The problem is we're not bored anymore. Every time that we're even slightly bored, here comes a smartphone. What are we doing? Even I'm guilty of this. I'll be watching a movie, and during like the slow part where they're just like maybe a little character development or something, I don't even get an opportunity. I'm just on my phone. I'm just checking what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's not healthy, So what this author does is he goes to Alaska for 32 days where he's completely off the grid, and he just experiences just complete boredom. They're hunting this caribou. They can never track it. But he's reading his protein bar ingredients over and over again. There's nothing else to read, nothing else to do. And yet he's just loving it because he's just in what our ancestors were in, and where he's just not overwhelmed with just the dings of the phone and just, again, so I really appreciate the fact, and it's a healthy reminder for me whenever I'm looking at that Reese's peanut butter. I'm like, dude, don't be a bitch. It's, you know what I mean? It's okay to be uncomfortable. Embrace the uncomfortableness.
You have to embrace the suck.
Yeah.
I just got done listening to David Goggins was on Rogan, and that guy's just, come on.
Monster.
There's not a better man on this planet as far as I'm concerned. If you listen to his entire story, what he went through with his parents and everything and his own physical stuff that he overcomes, but he talks about going to the dark side, and he wants to go there because he wants to study it.
Yeah.
And most people run from that, where he is running to it.
Yeah.
When he's got bone on bone, with his knee, with no ligaments hardly at all. And he's running, 240-mile ultra marathons.
Yeah.
And we're complaining about, how much money we're making right now. What? It's bananas to give you a greater perspective and a greater outlook in life when you're looking at guys like him and what he's doing. And he lives here, by the way, which I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
He's here, which is bananas.
I've seen him running around. I'm like, Goggins. I was
really?
screaming. The one time I saw him, he was next to, I'm on my way from a nice little air conditioned, treadmill. He's running just, and he can afford these nice, he doesn't care. He is as authentic as he presents himself. He's running around, and he lives out here. You'll see him run around all over the place. It's great.
Yeah, he is somebody that I'm just like, oh my God, it's incredible to do.
Yeah.
Let's look at the real estate market here in Las Vegas, 2022. What were your feelings about it? How did it go for you as an agent? What did you see?
Yeah, it was a super interesting year. Started off, it was just, kind of the carryover from the previous year where it was just insane. Everything. I felt bad for my agents. I'm not as much in production as I used to be as far as out in the field showing properties. But a lot of my agents, obviously, we have meetings and we discuss it, and it was just exhausting. They'd get a phone call, this person wants to see a property, so you go through the questions, and next thing you know, you're at that property within, a couple hours, and then you get back and they love it. They want to write an offer. You get back to your desk and it's gone, and that was just reoccurring, and it was exhausting. So not only was it exhausting on the agent, but on the consumers, because you're having to have these conversations like, hey, I know you just fell in love with that property, but it's gone, and it's like, this was just constant. So with the iBuyers, the hedge funds paying just, 20, 30K over on everything, it really squeezed out a lot of our locals, which was, really unfortunate, as the service workers, industry workers, teachers, forget about it. You weren't going to get into a house. So now, fast forward 9 months, where we're at now, the market has definitely softened. Sellers are, I think, starting to come to the reality. Some are, some aren't. That, they're not going to get the prices that they were before, not even close, and I think it's healthy. Is it, a slower market? Is it good for sellers? Not right now, no. Rates are high. Is that good for buyers? It depends on perspective, but no, not really. It's higher payments for less house. However, it's lowering the prices to where hopefully, again, we can start seeing our locals have an opportunity to purchase again, which is the, foundation of our real estate market. I don't know about you, but I don't feel too comfortable with these hedge funds coming in, buying 50, 60, 70% of our inventory and then renting them out because, and that's the only options that our locals have. And they're going to continue to raise the rents on you because they control that entire market as well. So I like it. Again, I'm not in love with, as far as, it happening kind of just so quickly, but it's a necessary evil. I felt like we need to come down. I still feel like we have some coming down to do, but there's going to be some there's already tremendous opportunity out there. There's down payment assistance programs. The sellers are covering closing costs and majority of things that are transactions I'm seeing to where if you qualify some grants, if you want to pursue that, or just in general, very, very little out of pocket. So you can look at the fact that, maybe your payments are going to be on the higher side because of the interest rates. That makes sense. However, your out-of-pocket expense is significantly limited than what it was 6 months ago, 9 months ago. And keep in mind, I don't think these rates are going to be forever. So in a year or two, you can talk about refinancing, getting it down again. And again, because the sellers are desperate to move their home, they're giving you all of these credits as well, to where these sellers are giving you credit to cover a rate buy down, or a 2-1 rate buy down is super, super popular right now, which I won't bore everyone with. But if you're on the fence about, potentially buying a home, have a conversation with a real estate agent that reach out to me or my team. We'll kind of walk you through and give you some options, because there's plenty of options and it's not as intimidating as you might think.
I think that 2023, first of all, well, hold on a second. What we saw was a Halley's Comet moment over the past few years with, you can get a mortgage in the 2s or 3s. I mean, God bless. And again, I'm dating myself. My first house was Canandaigua, New York, 2125 Macedon Road and County Road 10, $93,000 for a ranch out in the country in the middle of a cornfield, 8.5% 3-year adjusted rate mortgage. And I jumped on that son of a bitch as fast as I possibly freaking could. And it reset to 12.5 after 3 years. But you refi. And so if you're looking at the cost of acquisition, but also holding that acquisition, that's the biggie. Yeah. And again, we're in Vegas, transit community here. So 3, 4, 5 years, people bounce for one reason or another. But within that, even let's say 3.5-year time frame, you can refinance to have a lower rate. Yep. And that's okay. You're fine. And it's having the tools and the confidence as a realtor to let people know, look, if you want the house, grab it. It's okay. Yeah. We can talk in another, if you're working with a good lender, they'll be talking to you a lot. Your lender wants you to refi. They've got mouths to feed too, especially their own. For sure. They want you to refi. So if you're working with a good lender, they're going to let you know when you're good to refi and how much money you're going to save for how long you're going to stay in the house for.
And I think it's important to know too, like a lot of times we get stuck in our heads because I think we're just keeping up with the Joneses, or we watch just way too much TV to where we're like, I need to be in the perfect house. It needs to check off all the boxes. And right now, depending on where you're at financially and the market as well, it may not be possible. So in your head, you're like, maybe I'll just continue renting because, that's a poor approach in my opinion. Again, I think if you're in a position to where you can afford it, and even if you don't think you can, you might with the market the way it is and with these grants and the sellers paying closing costs, but you're moving into something. And like you had said previously, if you're going to turn around and sell in 2 to 3 years, probably not a good idea. Now, if you're going to hold on to it for 10 years plus, it's almost historically always a great idea. It's an investment that's going to appreciate. Will it go down a little bit this year? Possibly. Will it go down the next 2 years? Maybe. Who knows? But over the course of 10 years, historically, it always trends upwards. So again, it's an investment that, unlike stocks, unlike crypto, it's tangible. You can enjoy it. So it's one of those things where even if it does kind of flatline, which it may not. It's hard to say. I'm not a fortune teller, but it's something that you can enjoy along the way. And like I said, over the course of 10 years, you're going to be just fine.
And also, we're in a very unique position here because 40%, give or take, of everyone coming here out of state's coming from California, and especially LA County, where they're double the cost to live there, to buy a home is double us, double. So there's a lot of people coming here that are cash buyers. And there's no better time than right now. If you want to wait, you can wait, but no one can ever predict the bottom of a dip. Nobody can predict that. But we're in a position now, and it's going to be coming, I think, for at least another 2 to 3 quarters, where if you're a cash buyer and you're probably coming from California, there are some deals to be had in Las Vegas, in Henderson, in Summerlin, that you could jump on and be very, very happy that you're getting literally double the house, or the same house you had in LA and saving half the money and putting it in the bank.
Yep. You're spot on with that. It's some of these properties, I'm going to be honest with you, it's a head scratcher. Like based on comps, we're on the lower side, knowing that's what it takes to move, just with the listings, and they don't move. Like it's no matter how well you market it, the photos, staging, everything, they don't move. So a lot of these sellers are, they're getting desperate. They're like, man, I just really need to get out. What we're finding for the most part is people are, buying in these circumstances because a lot of them are scared, especially during the holidays as well. No one's really in a hurry to move during Christmas, New Year's, everything else. But a lot of times, what we're seeing right now is it's due to dire circumstances. Maybe there was a death, maybe pregnancy, recently married. It's some sort of life event, but nobody's moving just for, shits and giggles. You know what I mean? Not right now. So these sellers are getting increasingly more desperate. And yeah, if you got a cash offer, you would be surprised what some of these sellers are willing to take just to get out of their home, because they're in dire straits as well. The market is, the real estate market is one thing, but like the economy in general is pretty sketchy. So like they want to get liquid, and, I don't blame them in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm not too confident in our current economic situation myself. I think it's going to be very interesting the next 12, even 18 months.
I love a way that I recommend to my clients to farm to get business is use LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. Follow Google News and look to see who is either hiring big or firing big, who is downsizing or who is in acquisition mode and has built a new office space or a new campus somewhere. And you can go into LinkedIn, find out people at that company all over the country, all over the world, and start to become friends with them and nurture conversations with them to see if, hey, I saw that XYZ Corporation is opening up a brand new facility in Summerlin. And if you ever have questions about the market here, I've been in business X amount of years, would love to earn the right. You don't ask for it. You haven't earned that. You need to earn it. And to do that is a way that I've had my clients, and they've done well with that one, because you're kind of getting ahead. And if you see people that, or if they're downsizing, unfortunately, there's a good chance that that person, they might be losing their job.
Yeah. And
having to move somewhere, either family out of state or somewhere where the cost of living is just like better, which is tough compared to here. But there are, like in the South, like Louisiana, Mississippi, places like that are just ripping cheap.
Right.
You're going to be in a chicken shack. You're going to be, doing all types of stuff. You better be good at agricultural stuff if you're going to be moving to the South, I think. But they make up for it because they have Waffle House. God bless. They have freaking Waffle House. But I love LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is one of the untapped potentials for a real estate agent to grow their business. Yeah. And it's something that a lot of people don't use. Gary Vee's been talking about it for years. He was talking years ago about pre-roll campaigns on YouTube and then also LinkedIn. And to do LinkedIn campaigns, which is pricey, but the data you're getting, the people you're getting in front of in certain sectors or certain companies at a certain geographic location and a certain job title is right there.
Yeah. And the demo, as far as like people who are potentially actually going to be clients, is a lot stronger than that of TikTok. Right?
It's phenomenal. We've got about 10 minutes left. And some of the stuff I wanted to touch on is really, what is it that gets you out of bed in the morning? Because you've got a lot going on. You just had Molly, your wife just had a baby, but you helped in the process. A little bit. I hope. I hope more than a little bit. We'll talk about that later. And so what is it that gets you out of bed now every morning?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've struggled with finding like my why. I never really knew. It was just something that I think a lot of it was ego driven to a degree. Like, I in high school, I was kind of big man on campus, and then afterwards I ballooned up to 350, was security guard. Eventually I got behind the bar, but I was still I was that stereotypical guy who like peaked in high school. You know what I mean? Like I'm probably that, 28-year-old guy with a beer in his hand and wearing his Letterman's jacket, just,
still talking about the old days. Remember back when we took on Coronado and everyone's like, dude, we don't care.
Uncle Rico or whatever.
Uncle Rico. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Could have won state. Yeah. Yeah. That was in my head how I felt. So where I didn't know if I was going to, maybe I did, at that point I was bartending, making decent money, $200 a night. I was pretty happy. But like in my heart, I was like, man, what am I doing? I feel like I'm pissing my life away, And so I'm forever grateful that I did stumble into real estate and kind of figured it out. But as far as like what would wake me up and get me going and just, waking up early at 3:30 and reading books and just wanting to be the best version of myself. It's a stark reminder that we only get one life. We only get to do this one time as far as I'm concerned. Okay. So, I feel like I wasted a lot of it, like a decade in my 20s. I feel like that was just time wasted. I got it together and like probably around 30, when I met Molly coincidentally. I also stopped, drinking around that time as well, which played a huge part. Never really had a major issue there. It was just something that didn't serve me and I recognized it. When I got older, I realized I'm only going to do things that benefit me. Going to the gym, eating clean. Do I screw up every now and then? Yeah. But for the most part, my baseline is this going to serve me? And so if it doesn't serve me, the answer is no, I'm removing it from my life. And my life has become so much more enjoyable because of that. So for me, it was a little bit like ego revenge on those who, even though I don't know if they were thinking that, I think that they might have been. I was in my head about like, no, I'm going to right this ship. I'm going to be the best version of myself. Even though I fucked up in my 20s, I'm going to change my life around. I'm going to be the best version I am. And that's what got me out of bed. And what continues to get me out of bed is I'm going to be the best version of myself. And whether that's a real estate agent, a best body that I can put together, best father, best husband, best everything that I can possibly be, it's a point of pride. But now it's since developed, I'd be lying if it wasn't my son. You know what I mean? It's a little bit easier when you have, like it was, obviously my family, I had to protect that, and that was my responsibility. But honestly, like it was just to be the best at everything. But now I have my son, it's just a little bit different. So it shifted a little bit, but it's still to be the best father to him. So in a way, it is still to be the best.
Awesome. It's something that, and we talked about this before, when you're a dad, there's a whole nother set of circumstances that go on because you become the most selfless son of a gun on the planet when you're a dad. Yeah. And you literally wake up in the morning, at least with me, it's fear. Mm-hmm. It's fear that I can't provide for my kids and that they're going to be, under the spaghetti bowl eating government cheese. Eating Velveeta, which will never happen. I will do that before they will to give them the lifestyle that they need, but also that they appreciate. And that's huge to do. Yeah. And I think that's, you have a legacy when you have kids. Yeah. You're responsible for their lives and to make them better and to not coddle them, but to love them. The hardest thing is to watch them fail, but then you dust them off and say, what did you learn? Yep. And you move on from there patiently and just do that. Is there anything else that a real estate agent right now, they're scared. They've literally gone through the first 5 minutes of Saving Private Ryan every day, right? For like almost all of 2022. Yeah. What are some things that they should know or should be capable of doing going into 2023?
Just make sure that you're having good conversations ultimately. And it depends. It's kind of a loaded question because I don't know where this agent would be at. If you're brand new and you're like completely clueless, I would strongly, and it's not because I have a team, but I'm telling you now, in order for you to kind of figure it out and to stretch out your career, as we know, it's like 93% of agents don't make it past 2 years. There's a reason for that. They don't get proper training. They focus too much on the wrong things. Like a lot of times there's like, what's the highest split I can get? Okay. You go somewhere, you can get a high split. You're not getting any training. No one's holding your hand. You're not getting leads because they're not getting paid from your efforts. So you got to find like a happy median. You're not going to make a ton of money unless you're a rare exception your first year or two. Like you just eat shit for a year or two, but you learn the craft. You start with a team that's going to give you opportunities, AKA leads. It's going to train you, that is incentivized by your success. Okay. When you start at these big brokerages, they don't give a shit. They just bring you in and then they chew you up and they spit you out. They hope that they're going to get 1 or 2 deals from like your cousin or your best friend, but ultimately that's not going to sustain a career. So if you want a sustainable career, join a team. Whatever the splits are, just make sure that you're getting proper training and you're getting opportunities. And then after 2 years, 3 years, whatever, when you feel comfortable, if you want to go solo and that's the right move for you, then knock yourself out. At least at that point, you're going to be able to navigate this career. But again, people rush too much into it. They worry too much about the wrong things. Just get your training, get your opportunities. Beyond that, if you've been in it for a minute and you're kind of already a seasoned agent and you're struggling right now, I strongly encourage you just to have deeper conversations, like this shallow, just where it was, you want to go see this property that worked, a year ago. Now, a lot of people are scared, you just want to make sure that you're going to be their trusted advisor, that they can trust you and that you genuinely care. It's not just a sale. Like a lot of these clients of ours, they become true friends of ours as well. We're holding their hands through the process, but especially now more than ever, they're really scared. So make sure that, you're helping them, you're their advisor. And at the same time, like you're able to extend these conversations because that relationship is not going to form typically on the first call. You know what I mean? Like there are certain ways to navigate this and you do have to be a practitioner, a salesman to a degree to where you have to overcome their objections because they're going to shield you. They're going to give you all of these answers where they just want to get you off the phone. You're a salesperson. But if you're able to overcome that with skills, eventually you can let like who you are shine through and you can actually tell them, hey, I'm here to help you with this transaction. This is a smart move for you. If it is a smart move, sometimes it's not and we'll tell them so. But just be their advocate and be there for them. So just better conversations, better relationships is really going to stretch out and be very important in the next couple of years.
I love it. What is the best way if somebody wants to get a hold of you because they have a question about the market or a question about going into a team or stuff like that? What's the best way, socials or whatever, that folks can get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can always email me at mike@therolandteam.com. Instagram is Mike_Roland or the Roland team. And then my phone number is, and provide a phone number, 702-575-7217. Any questions, call, text. Text is usually better, to be honest, because I don't know, it's madness. These phone calls, it's never anything good. It's always a telemarketer. Health insurance has been wild lately. But yeah, shoot me a text, email me, Instagram me or whatever. We can have a conversation if I can answer any questions. No strings attached.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. This was fun.
Awesome.